It isn't wrong to want nice things in life, but if that becomes your number one priority, it can be a real problem. Fred explains it well using a couple of short stories.
And there's an old story. J.D. Rockefeller, at the time, was the richest man in America. In fact, he was the very first billionaire. And so one day a reporter came to him and said, Mr. Rockefeller, how much is enough to define financial success? And he famously quoted, just a little bit more. So the American psychology is that there's really no limits in the American culture. There's really no limits to how much is enough. And so naturally, I remember when I was 22 years old, just out of college, my first goal was I want to be a millionaire by 30. I did not attain that, by the way. But if I had, probably the next goal would have been, okay, I'm going to turn that into 2 million, and then to 4 million, and then to 8 million. And so how much is enough? And so it really, so you have that moving goalpost mentality that's part of the American culture. And so there's a story my dad used to tell me when I was young. There's a story of a man, you may have heard this also, but a story of a man who climbed the ladder of success. And he climbed and climbed over the years. And when he got to the top of the rung, he realized that the ladder was against the wrong wall. And so there's a couple of lessons from that, is that to achieve a lot of success like that, many times you have to sacrifice some of the things that are most important to you. It could be your health. It could be your integrity. It could be your family. It could be your marriage or your children. A friend told me just the other day about a close friend of his who's a billionaire, and his kids absolutely hate him. And so people go, well, I'm not trying to be a billionaire. I just like to have, a significant amount of money. But oftentimes it comes with a cost when you climb the ladder of success. And then there's the other things that when you reach that top rung and finally achieve that absolute success, there's a hollowness or of a sense of failure because it truly does not satisfy. And so those are two big problems with climbing that ladder of success. So the question becomes, what is true contentment? What does contentment mean? And it's really, when I started doing my study, I really realized that God owns it all. And there's a peace that comes from knowing that God owns it all. And so what am I to be? The Bible says I'm to be a good steward. And the definition of a good steward is to be a manager. So when you sum that up, I don't own it. I'm not an owner. I'm a manager. God has given me these, through my study, God has given me these resources to use for His purpose, not for my purpose, but to accomplish His purpose. And there's a real freedom in that. And so what am I to be a good steward of? I'm to be a good steward of many things. I'm to be a good steward of my marriage. To be a good steward of my children. I'm to be a good steward of my health. I'm to be a good steward of my financial resources. And realizing that God gave me these resources, again, to accomplish His purpose, not mine. So understanding the difference between ambition and contentment. Is it wrong to want a nice car? Is it wrong to want to buy a house? Is it wrong to want a college education fund for my kids? Is it wrong to have a nice sized 401k so when I do retire, I can enjoy the fourth quarter of my life? And the answer to that is absolutely no. There's nothing wrong with that. What is wrong is when the pursuit of that becomes so important, it becomes the number one priority in your life over your relationship to God. But no, it's not wrong to want to desire those things.